And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. I said welcome back because I know you were just sitting here listening to our stuff and you loved it so much you wanted to come back for more, and we have more for you. We actually have a double dose today. This is the podcast that is about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And yes, you cracked the code. Our guests today are podcasters. And when I said a double dose, we have two podcasters with us today. This is the place where we all come together to lift each other up. This is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So let's get rolling. Let's introduce these guys. I love their project. I've loved it since the moment I saw it coming out, and I can't wait for them to tell you guys all about it. The first guy is a guy that I've had on before. He was my second interview, third episode of this show. He's been on my other podcast. Known him for a long time. He used to have another podcast out there, and now he's doing this one and just tearing up the airwaves. And his partner is on here also with him. Let me introduce both these guys, Skyler Rader and Kyle Orrick. Our third partner, Chris Jordan, otherwise known as Jordy, can't be with us tonight, but they are the guys that are putting out the Hidden Scoreboard podcast. Guys, conspiracy theories everywhere. Absolutely love your show. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us. This is so exciting. We really appreciate you having us on. This is, like you said, you and me have talked a few times. So those of you that are in the listening land, I'm Skyler. My other co-host that's with me is Kyle Orrick, and we are the Hidden Scoreboard. We do sports conspiracy podcasts, and it's just been just a total blast. We wanted to create something that was fun and not work. The other podcast was quite a bit of work, but not that this one isn't, but just more of a passion project, and we're just having a blast with it.
Beautiful, beautiful. And, Kyle, welcome to the show, brother. I'm glad you're here with Skyler. You're going to help me keep him grounded, keep him down to earth a little bit.
I don't know if we can do that, but we can try. Appreciate you having us on. Like Skylar said, this is just something we enjoy doing. Get to talk about sports. Just two guys hanging out, talking about things we talk about on a regular night. Putting it on a podcast and bringing it to light, bringing some ideas and theories to light. And it's a lot of fun.
Nice, nice. Now, Kyle, I know that Skyler has had a podcast before. He and I have talked a lot. I've had him on the show. Is this your first foray into the podcasting world, or have you done podcasting before too?
No, this is the first one I've done is here with Skylar. So it's been a learning experience. It's been a lot of fun. So appreciate you
Nice.
having us on, man.
Nice, nice, nice. All right. Well, I'm glad to hear it's a lot of fun. All right. So I'm going to throw this out there to you guys, and you guys can figure out how you want to handle it, like who take turns answering, or however you want to do it. But um, when this first came out, I was like, sports conspiracies. Okay. And I started thinking, what are some of the sports conspiracies that are out there? Well, you've come up with some really interesting ones, and I
Yeah.
love the way that you've done it. Like even the Shaddeur Sanders thing here recently was kind of a conspiracy. Like what really happened there? What gave you guys the idea to do a podcast on sports conspiracies?
I think the idea was a little bit more on my end. Me and Kyle, we will regularly go have lunch at like a sports bar, and we'll see something up on Sports Center, and I'm just like, that's not the full story. And we'll kind of chew through it and just kind of hang out. And I just thought, I'm somebody who listens to a lot of conspiracy podcasts already. That's a very entertaining thing for me. I like, there's a specific one, Theories of the Third Kind, that I'm a big fan of. And there's some other ones out there too, macro dosing, and it's just so entertaining. I don't know if I believe everything that I hear, right? But for me, from an entertainment standpoint, it's really fun to explore that. And I just thought, nobody's really talking about what's going on behind the scenes in the sports world. And I thought it would be cool if we did a concept where one of us was presenting the conspiracy and the other one was playing the role of skeptic, like you said at the beginning of the episode, keeping me a little bit more grounded. So that's kind of how it was born.
I wondered about that. So Kyle Schuyler usually is the guy who is coming up with the ideas of like all the different conspiracies, right?
Correct. Yeah. So he'll even like you said, the Shaddeur Sanders one recently. We recorded that live together, and he kind of threw that idea at me, and we hadn't talked about it previously. So, I mean, you're getting a live reaction of what I really think of what he's putting together. But yeah, kind of doing that and the format I think is what's really unique is because you're getting a real live reaction from the other person. I haven't really had the opportunity to gather enough evidence on anything to throw one at Skyler, but that's something we're working on is kind of throwing one back at each other. But as it grows, we'll both kind of come up with some ideas and stories and throw them at each other. And I think that's the most exciting part of the podcast is getting that live reaction.
The evolution of the show.
Right. And he's brought up, we're both pretty big sports fanatics and he's brought some things to my attention I've never even heard of. So it's, like I said, it's just fun to sit around and talk about sports and things that, that are out there, that there's got to be more to the story. Almost every time is what we find out. So it's a lot of fun.
Nice. All right. I mean, this is, as I'm sitting here looking at the three of us, this is hilarious because we all should really just be crying in our towels. I mean, honestly, we got like Broncos, we got Browns, we got Bears. It's like,
I think I got the most hope. I got the most hope right now.
Oh, for sure. Bo Nix is the truth.
Yeah. I was a Bo Nix fan before he joined the Broncos. So I hear you, man. And it's funny because I told you guys I'm wearing my Khalil Mack jersey, which is the last time I really believed the Bears would make the playoffs. And we did.
Yeah.
Then we double doinked our way out of it. But
you guys are making moves, though, at least. I mean, you got Ben Johnson. You guys had a really strong offensive draft. You brought in one of my favorite receivers, most underrated receiver in the NFL, DJ.
DJ Moore?
DJ Moore, yeah. Sorry. For some reason, I wanted to say Wilson. I'm like, that's not right. DJ Moore is the most underrated wideout in the NFL. Nobody's doing more with less than DJ Moore.
He's definitely doing with less. That is for sure. He's been with the Bears. So, yeah, absolutely 100%. But, I guess I'm a little, not with the Broncos, I see the hope. With the Bears, I see the hope. Now, Skyler, man, I love you. But
yeah, it's tough.
The Browns?
Yeah, I like to give my money to charity is most of,
I mean, as long as we're talking about it.
You can't have it all in life. I've got to be upset about something once a week.
What's your quarterback situation over there?
Well, that's a lot of what the last episode was about, is a lot of people, you see them on the internet going nuts. What are they going to do with 5 quarterbacks? And we're really not going to have 5 quarterbacks. Deshaun's never going to play again. He's got an ACL injury. They're going to let him sit on IR. So he is getting paid, but he doesn't count against the cap. You've got Flacco, which is kind of your number 2, no matter what, where, you need a guy that can win a game. That's the role he's going to play. And then you traded for Kenny Pickett. Now this is where it gets weird because I think Kenny Pickett's not as bad as people think. I think he got a bad rep in Pittsburgh, and then he had to sit behind Jalen Hurts in Philly. I think he's going to be a pretty polished guy. The problem is now we've drafted Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round and Shaddeur Sanders in the 4th, back to back. And it's when you draft a high-profile quarterback in the draft, you've got to play him. The fans will crucify you if you don't play him. So what I think is going to happen is it's going to be Kenny Pickett's job to lose. The second he has a bad game, we're going to see Shaddeur. Dylan Gabriel will probably get moved or cut in the preseason. And Flacco will be your middle backup no matter what's going on. That's my hypothesis.
Wow. Well, Kyle, how do you feel about that?
It's he talked all the way through that, but it's still sad.
That's the response. I love it. Kyle, you're a great straight guy, brother. You really are. I mean, as a partnership goes, you were a great straight guy. All right. So aside from, I had to give you a little bit of grief about the Browns. So I do.
No, I'm prepared for it, as you can tell.
Had to happen. And as a Bear fan, we don't usually get to not be the worst team in the NFL.
None of my quarterbacks have fingernail paint on, but that's a whole nother story.
I can't even defend that. I can't. You're right. That's your get out of jail free card for forever with the Bears. So anyway, So as we're sitting here, we're talking about the Shaddeur thing, and there's people out there who are probably going, "What is the Shaddeur thing?"
Hmm.
Maybe you guys can give first because it's the most recent thing, and so it's kind of like on top of mind.
Sure.
But let everybody know a little bit about what you think is the conspiracy of the Shaddeur thing, but then also give us some examples of what other conspiracies are and why you think the conspiracies. You know what I mean? Just kind of
Sure.
to bring our audience in on what is really going on with the podcast.
Sure. And I know we're talking about football a lot now. So I'll touch on the Shadur thing. And then Kyle, maybe you could bring up like one of our basketball ones, like the Patrick Ewing one, for example.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that'd be one that you could get through really easily. But as far as the Shadur thing goes, it was a pretty big deal that Deion Sanders, his dad, tried to dictate in the draft process where his son was going to go. And we've seen this before with Archie Manning,
Right.
Hall of Fame, not Hall of Fame quarterback, but above average quarterback, to his son Peyton and Eli, where Eli was drafted by the Chargers, and Arch made it more than evident that he was not going to play there, and they actually traded him after he was picked to the Giants. So, Dion said in several interviews, it's not that my son needs to go to this team or that team. There's just some he's not going to be allowed to play for. And I think the owners really took a stance against Shadur. This is my hypothesis because you're getting all these kids that are coming through college. They're making big money in the NIL. They're being paid, they're being empowered, and they're getting used to calling the shots. They decide where they play in college, right? And I think the owners went, you know what? We need to take back the power here. It doesn't matter what you're used to. This is our league. You're not going to dictate this. We're going to dictate this. So we all seen day one, Shadur was projected to either go to the Steelers was one of the places, the
Hmm.
Giants was one of the places. He could have easily went number two to the Browns. And then there was the trade out, for Travis Hunter, the whole thing. But there were several opportmies for him to go in the first round. He slips. Second round, it happens. And we're all just glued to our TV. I mean, I usually don't work, I watch my Browns picks, but I usually don't watch every pick. Right. So the first layer of this the conspiracy is maybe the NFL and the owners did this intentionally for ratings to watch the later rounds. Maybe because
Hmm.
that's all the coverage was.
Sure.
Okay. So there's the first layer. Second layer of it is I think Roger Goodell, the commissioner, goes, man, guys, we've got a we've got a PR problem here. We're looking like something's wrong with our league for not getting this kid who every scout had going top five players, not top seven quarterbacks. What's going on here, guys? So I think Goodell went, guys, I work for you. You're about to have a PR nightmare. Calls the owners and goes, maybe sends out a little group text to all 32 owners. I don't know how they do it, right? Or email. Boys, somebody needs to take Shadur. We've got a problem. And I think all those owners went and pointed the finger at Jimmy Haslam, my Browns owner, and went, Jimmy, the last time there was a quarterback issue, you're the one who screwed us all. You're the one who gave Deshaun all that guaranteed money. You're the one who reset the market. So instead of us dealing with this, Jim, you're going to deal with it. And bingo, bango, the Browns try to get ahead of it. They draft Dylan Gabriel. Jim, you got to do it. I don't care if you already drafted a quarterback. Oh, okay. And then Shadur goes in the fourth. So that's my conspiracy theory here is that the Browns didn't even want him. It was just Jimmy Haslam owed the rest of the league one, essentially.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
wow. The worst part about that conspiracy theory is I totally can see it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can literally hear the owners behind making the phone calls going, dude, you screwed us before. We need you to fix this now. The other thing that comes to mind while you're sitting here talking is that it does make you wonder also if it was a bigger issue with the NFL and the NCAA in terms of we got to get these guys in check.
Sure.
So we're going to take the highest profile, loudest father-son combo that everyone's talking about,
And we're
right?
going to dial him down.
Right. But we're also at the same time going to take this Tennessee kid
Hmm.
who thinks that he's going to hold out for more money
Hmm.
and we're going to, band together and shoot him down. And he ends up taking a $3 million haircut to go out to UCLA and play ball.
Right.
So it just kind of makes you wonder if that's coincidence that that all happens at the same time too, or if the NFL and the and NCAA are going, look, we got to get these players back under control.
Right. It's good business for everyone to get the players under control. It's great business for the players to be empowered for them, but it's not good for everybody else.
Right. Interesting. I love the way you guys think about this. And you mentioned that, yeah, we're talking football. We just had the draft. Kyle, you got a basketball story. Now, if it's coming from you, I'm hoping it's not about LeBron.
No, no. Well, LeBron's always tied in, but we've done quite a few basketball episodes. We've touched on the Wilt 100-point game. We've touched on the Patrick Ewing draft, which has a lot of controversy around it. And Skyler and Jordy have done an episode on the recent Luka trade, conspiracy in progress, and it all seems to tie back. As fans, we kind of have blinders on. We're fans, we're enjoying it, and I don't know if it's just because we're getting older or if it's just the amount of social media and the amount of information that's available to us. But it just seems like more and more everything that happens, there's a reason behind it. You go back to the Wilt Chamberlain game, the NBA and all the NBA conspiracies that we've touched on. It's kind of like they're trying to revive the league. You go
Yeah.
back to Wilt's 100-point game, let's draw some attention to this game. There's all this controversy around it. There's no real records. It's played in a weird environment. There's no footage, this, that, and the other. But Wilt drops 100 points miraculously, and suddenly everybody's interested in the NBA again. You go back to the 80s where Patrick Ewing's coming out of Georgetown, and he's just this dominant force coming out of college. And what did we say, Skyler? I think the Warriors would have had the number one pick that year if they
Yeah,
did it the
he
old
could.
way.
If they did it the old way, he would have went to the Warriors, which is what he kind of wanted. He had an ex-teammate, Sleepy Floyd, there already
Right,
that he could have
right.
played with.
But
But
the league is in shambles, and
yep,
they plant Patrick Ewing in New York, and there's a lot of if you go back and listen to that episode, we dug into a lot of weird things that happened that put Patrick in New York, and then going on to this Luka trade that happened, this year. That I mean, nobody talked about the Super Bowl during Super Bowl week because Luka got traded.
right,
It's like the biggest trade in sports history. And the more you dive into it, there's all this controversy about Dallas possibly moving to Vegas, and there's just something behind all these stories, and it just seems like the more and more you look into it, you got to remember as a fan that this is a business for these guys. Even talking about the Shaddeur Sanders thing, these are billionaires just playing with toys, and the toys happen to be franchises that have hundreds of thousands and millions of fans, and they just keep them interested enough, and they'll do whatever they got to do to drops. The NBA is kind of suffering right now with viewership and things like that, and there's a lot of moving parts to that Luka trade that you could question, and we kind of dove into that on the podcast. So like I said, the more we get into it, it just seems like there's a hidden agenda behind everything that goes on in almost any sport, and it always involves that bottom line in the owner's pockets. It seems more and more than the fandom, and it's crazy. As a fan, as someone that grew up watching sports and enjoying sports, and as you get older, you kind of realize everything's a business. It's a little disappointing,
yeah.
but it's fun to talk about, and we might be all crazy and just have all these conspiracies, but there's got to be some truth to some of it. I mean, so
Interesting. Interesting. I love this stuff. I really do. I've liked the stuff you guys have been doing since the moment you started doing it. So, the conspiracies are there's something going on behind the scenes
Hmm.
that nobody else knows about, and you guys are um, you're hypothesizing on this,
Yeah, it's
right?
a
I mean,
theory.
it's all
We
theory,
have,
right?
it's very, I would like to use the word maybe speculative, where
Okay.
I've got point A and point B, and I'm drawing my own line to that. But I don't, I mean, some of my stuff obviously is a reach where it's more for entertainment value. But like going to the Shaddeur thing, that's one I 100% believe in.
Well, I could tell
I'm,
by the way you were
And
talking.
when you threw that at me, I was like, wow.
and I've not heard,
Yeah, when he
sometimes I'll
threw that at me,
hear,
I'm like, wow, that makes sense.
yeah, sometimes I'll hear somebody else, bring up a point and I'll build off of that. So not everything is just my own thoughts or opinions. I am influenced, but that Shadur one was 100% me. And I'm like, I really believe it. I think Jimmy Haslam had to fall on the sword, so to speak, so the NFL could avoid a giant PR nightmare, and it just happened to be, hey, you owe us one type thing.
Nice. Of the conspiracies that you guys have talked about, is there one or maybe a couple that has really kind of rocked the boat, gotten you more reaction, gotten you more, DMs or comments or anything like that?
So there was a really weird one we did. It's the second episode we did. I did it with Jordy, and it's about your Chicago Bears. So it was about Virginia McCaskey, your owner, and people who really know the Bears organization knows that she's wasn't really the owner anymore. The kids were kind of running it, whatever. She was more listed as a secretary, but she still had voting power and whatnot. But the theory is that she killed her brother to get ownership of the team. And then there's a curse on your Bears that until you guys have cheerleaders, you won't win a Super Bowl or go to a Super Bowl. And the evidence is 1985, you had cheerleaders, the Golden Bears. You win the Super Bowl. Virginia decides after that it's demeaning to women. We're not doing it anymore, whatever. I'm all pro feminism, whatever, empowerment. But we flash forward the next Super Bowl you go to that you lose to the Colts, that preseason, you guys had unofficial cheerleaders there who dressed up for you. And since then, we have not been back to a Super Bowl, So anyway, there's the curse. And then a lot of people said that she wouldn't, that you guys would never win a Super Bowl or, really have a great season again until she dies. 2 days after we released the episode, she died. So there was a lot of reaction about that, and that made the episode feel a little bit more directed, but it wasn't. It was just a coincidence.
Nice. A little more ominous, actually, because
Yeah, yes,
this is a good time for you to say, hey, we had nothing to do with it.
correct. Yeah, it was for pure entertainment, purposes. Our thoughts and prayers are with the McCaskey family. We're sure she's not as terrible as everyone on the internet says she is.
There you go. There you go. I know that my daughter is a huge Bears fan. She lives just outside of Chicago, and she was like, I don't want to be glad that someone passed away, but man, can we win a game now? Can something happen? It's just
She
been
had a good life. I think she was over 100 years old too. I'd like to mention that. So it's not like she died young or something.
no, it was interesting the way it all came together. But sports fans are crazy. We're all a little bit off the wall. So that was one that you thought was kind of hmm,
Very strange
interesting
timing. Yeah.
timing wise. There you go. Let's see, Kyle. How about let me go to you. Is there one that you thought was like just really, really interesting that like more than the other ones? Maybe it kind of tripped your trigger a little bit more, or made you think a little bit more for the fans that are out there.
Skyler, what was the hockey brothers? What were their names?
They're the Sedin twins.
The Sedin twins.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we're doing too is bringing up you know some things that the average fan might not know about. Bringing up some stories that you've never heard before because I thought that Sedin twin one was pretty interesting, where the brothers were there was controversy about whether the hockey brothers, were switching out during games to keep the ones active streak alive. And then ESPN even did that commercial, kind of poking fun at the streak and the twins, and um, you know your average sports fan might not be so into hockey or some of these, even the Bears story you're talking about. Your average sports fan might not know as much about these other stories that are going on that aren't in the media every day. So I think just diving into those stories that aren't as available or aren't as talked about are some of the better stories because you kind of learn something along the way and kind of get your mind going and you dive into something you don't normally look into. So I've had a lot of fun doing that.
Excellent. I'm curious, where do you guys get your ideas from? Because it's not like you can just go, open up a book of sports conspiracies and say, hey, let's talk about chapter six today. What kind of research goes into your show and how do you guys come up with these, every week?
So, yeah, I'm still waiting for Kyle to present me with one. I know he's working on a few of them. There's a couple different resources I like to use. I usually start on Reddit. Believe it or not, I want to hear what other people are saying. So Reddit's a great resource. If you look up, football, NFL conspiracy, NBA conspiracies, there's some people in there that have a list of ones that they think there is traction to. So I usually start on Reddit, and then as I'm doing research, believe it or not, like we did the Potsdam, oh God, goodness, the from the Chicago Cardinals,
Oh,
the Potsdam curse.
yeah, yeah.
There was Potsdam, Pennsylvania. There was a ton of local reporting that they did for news coverage that I was able to go back and like kind of watch like old like news about, and then I'll try to actually find clips of a game. If there's a specific game like the Wilt Chamberlain one, I was able to find the original audio from the game. There is no video from it. Um, so I'm looking for video, I'm looking for newspaper, I'm looking for scorebox. There's all kinds of stuff. Like for a great conspiracy that I thought one of our underrated episodes was the Wayne Gretzky one, where he was involved in an illegal gambling ring, allegedly. Um, there was a ton of newspaper articles in New Jersey that had ties to the mob, where the FBI that was involved did tons of research, and it was all available for the public. So the internet obviously is a great tool. There's an episode I'm working on right now about Pete Rose, me being a Dayton, Ohio native, where I ran into somebody at a sports bar who turned me on to something because I was telling them about my podcast. So some of it is a matter of circumstance, but there's a lot of YouTube, there's a lot of Reddit, there's a lot of newspaper archives, and resources like that. But we try to separate the facts from fiction. So I really try to use credible websites, especially when I'm presenting something as a fact. And I welcome anybody to fact check me. If we got it wrong, we'll admit it. And if we need to correct a conspiracy, we will. I mean, it's a theory for a reason. We don't have it all figured out, but we do our best.
Nice, nice. So now are you doing most of the research on that because you're coming up with the episodes, or Kyle, are you jumping in, or is that where Jordy comes in for some of that?
So currently I'm doing a lot of the research, but the plan is, as the episodes and the show evolves, is for Jordy and Kyle to start to take over the driver's seat. I want a chance to react, and we want to mix it up and keep it fresh and fun.
Got it. Very cool. Do you guys split up like your areas of specialization or anything, or is that maybe something in the future, or is it just everybody talks about everything?
I think right now, I mean, everybody just kind of talks about everything. I mean, I think it's like I talked earlier, even the hockey thing. Like I don't know a lot about hockey, so
Jordy's a bigger hockey fan than both of us, and he's not done a
right,
hockey episode yet.
right, yeah. So I think it's almost better if you're kind of not in your area of expertise because you're getting that raw reaction of wow, I wouldn't have ever thought of that or didn't even know that or you know because I think I've done both the hockey ones, right?
Yes, we
And
got it.
like I said, I like kind of learning and experiencing something new, and basketball is more my realm, and I think Jordy's done more of that, so I think it's good just to kind of get a mix of everything.
Excellent. I love that you guys have the duo going. That there's always at least two of you, talking about it. Because I mean, just doing the show itself, it seems like you need to have, one guy talking, one guy reacting in order for the show to kind of fly, work, carry its weight.
Yeah, I
I
did a
assume that's why you
solo.
set it up that way, right?
Yeah, I did a solo episode about Mike Malone recently being fired from the Nuggets, and
Oh
it's my
yeah.
least favorite episode I've done. It was zero fun. So I apologize to anybody who has to listen to that, but maybe I'm being hard on myself.
I think
but
you're being hard on yourself.
Yeah,
but
you are.
but it is way, way better when we have one of us reacting. Absolutely.
That's very cool. Okay, so we've got all these different conspiracies going on, and you deal with all sports. Is
Mhm.
anything off limits in terms of what you guys are willing to talk about?
I don't
Oh,
know. I don't
we're
think
not getting
so.
a quick answer on that one.
No, I
I
mean, I never thought about it, but I mean, I guess not. Like Skyler said, I mean, I I think we both kind of like diving into the conspiracy realm and not just sports, but I'm open to listen. I'm open to listening to anyone talk about anything. I'll hear you out about anything. So I mean, when it comes to sports, I don't see why anything could be off limits because I'll listen to you talk about it. I
Sure.
might think you're crazy, but I'll listen. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely not anything that's off limits. I would love to do, there's a couple episodes that I've been saving for as our following gets bigger, where we have a bigger audience, because I know it'll drive a certain reaction. Some people might love it and or hate it. Because those certain episodes, they're not theories anymore. They're actual conspiracies that happened, and we have evidence that they happened. But unfortunately, they have some political undertones, and that's something I'm saving. But at the same time, I can't wait to do them. So, um, it's just one of those things. It's not that it's off limits. I think you have to consider timing. And when you're talking about something potentially controversial, where it's not a theory anymore, and you're presenting it as fact, and there was people conspired to do whatever they did, I think you want to be very sensitive to the parties involved, but not soft about it at the same time. So, that's something that's on my mind. So as far as something being off limits, if we had on a random guest to join us, I wouldn't want a random guest of ours to get political. I would want to save that for kind of our tripod where we all three of us can be on the same page as far as that goes, because we won't, we're not going to push an agenda either way. But as far as having an open discussion about it, that's different compared to having a guest on, if that makes sense.
It does actually, and it's interesting that you brought up the idea of it being political,
Hmm.
because that is sort of the one of the biggest fears of any podcaster right now. And has been for years. So it's not just
Yeah.
right now, but right now it's everything's kind of come to a boiling point in a lot of ways. So a lot of podcasters are worried about that because nobody wants to alienate half their audience.
Yep.
Everybody wants to use Jordan's line of, "Hey, Republicans buy sneakers too."
Right, right.
So
That book
because
by Clay Travis is fantastic, by the way. I recommend reading that one. I've got it in my basement.
Yep, I've read that. It's good.
all right, so much for not getting political. All right. So anyway, but I appreciate that you brought that up because I would think it would be a consideration, and it's funny the way sports transcends into every other aspect of life.
Yes.
Um, Now it's easy to sit here and say, "Hey, it's just a sports show," but how tough is it to not just avoid politics, but avoid all of the other aspects that sports dives into, especially when you're talking about conspiracies?
Ooh. One thing I do for each episode, because so far it's been Jordy and Kyle reacting to the conspiracy, is I'll build myself an outline. So if you're a podcaster that's listening to this, it is super easy to get off topic. It is super easy to have guests that get off topic. We're probably driving Rory nuts tonight. Um, but one thing I started doing with my old podcast was I had an outline, and not that I want to have a concrete agenda, but I want to have a flow for where I'm going. And without that outline, you're kind of driving without GPS. So, not that you can't get to the finish line. I think, like a long form podcaster, somebody like Joe Rogan, he gets away with a lot because it's so long form that he's got plenty of time to rope back in the guest or get back on track. When we're doing the average podcaster really has an episode that's between 35 and 55 minutes long is kind of the sweet spot. 45 minutes, a lot of guys will do.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that outline, then you get all over the place. So one thing that does help me is as I'm compiling my research, I try to have it segmented where I know where I'm going to finish to.
Nice. Nice. Okay, that was a great way to answer that question.
Yeah,
I like how you did that. That was pretty good. We have
you're
an
welcome.
experienced guy over here. He's been on my podcast before. He's looking for that. He's like, okay, I know what you're asking me right now. Um, okay, this is a question. It's primarily for Skyler because you and I have met before. Obviously, I've interviewed before.
Mhm.
I've been on your show. The um, How is this different from doing what you were doing before with Sky the Service Guy?
Oh my gosh. So, I was trying to do my own marketing and consulting business. So Sky, the Service Guy podcast was to help separate myself as an expert in my field. It was also something I was doing to push myself to network, which is very difficult for me. So podcasting and podcast communities are so giving when it comes to networking. Almost everybody wants to help each other. That's what's so beautiful about what you're building, the Podcast Nation, is it's it's helpful for everybody, rookies and pros and guys like me that are kind of in the middle who've done enough, but I'm not, I don't think I'm, whatever. And the difference with doing this show is I'm just doing it with Jordy and Kyle right now. It's more about, there's something about being somewhere and just men connecting on something that's not so serious, not dealing with the stresses of our mortgage, our job, trying to be great dads, some of the things that you talk about on your Power of Man podcast.
Yeah.
So this has really been a great release for me to connect with Kyle and Jordy and just kind of share that time with them and have fun doing it. And, it's just kind of just chop it up with the guys. It's a good excuse. I don't golf. It's kind of like that, it's that same thing, right? So it's just a great excuse to blow off some steam and have some fun doing it.
That's beautiful. This is the perfect time because of that segue that you just gave me, to go ahead and hit you guys with my corny question. And I'm going to go to Kyle with this first because I just asked you, Skyler. So, um, Kyle, as we're sitting here and we're talking about this and Skyler is talking about, guys getting together and being able to just have fun and maybe escape a little bit from, the reality and the responsibility. Let me just ask you, as you do this podcast with Skylar with Jordy, what is the thing about doing this project that you love the most, and what is the thing about doing this project that you just can't stand?
I'll touch the second part first. I honestly wish I just had more time to invest in it. I wish I could just sit around and talk about sports and conspiracies and all this nonsense all day long.
Yeah,
That's the biggest downfall is, you know, this is kind of is an escape, and that's what's fun about it is we just kind of get to sit around and talk about things we would normally talk about. If we were sitting around watching a game or having dinner or having a drink, we're just kind of sitting around and shooting it up with each other. And yeah, I just wish I had more. I wish I could do this all day, every day. That'd be the best job in the world. But it's great just to sit down with Skylar and talk about the things that we talk about all the time and coming up with new ideas. And Skylar's really good at. I mean, he dives into things. He does a lot of research and he really gets my mind going. And he does a good job of hosting the podcast. And I've learned a lot from him over this. And you know, just kind of having conversation on camera is the only difference. And I've really enjoyed doing it.
nice, nice. Well, those are some nice words. I think he probably owes you $20 now for all
A
of the
hundred
nice
Right?
things you
percent.
Yeah.
just said
Yeah.
about him.
Shoots
But
the
Yeah,
man.
I'll buy you lunch tomorrow if you want to catch up with me
there you
My
go.
man.
at the normal spot.
I'll be there.
So, Skylar, same question to you, brother. At this
Mhm.
point, and you've done it before, and you fielded all those questions beautifully. But on this podcast right now, with what you're doing, and I love the way you said that earlier. Maybe that's the answer to my corny question, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. What is the thing you love the most about doing this podcast this way, the way you're doing it, and what's the thing that you just really can't stand about doing this podcast?
So I do love the connection with Jordy and Kyle. Kyle's my cousin, but he's closer to a brother. As a brother to me. We're very similar age. Our children are similar age. We got married pretty similar. So we've got a very strong relationship. And Jordy is one of my best friends, and he works with me at our other business. So interacting with these guys in this environment makes it super super fun. At the end of the day, though, I am just a sports nerd and I love the research. I actually love the research. I love putting it all together. I love the prep. What I hate is the promotion because I'm a salesperson by trade. I spend a lot of time selling myself and selling goods and services. And even though you're just posting things in places and you're scheduling things, it is very time consuming. And that's why I would tell anybody who's listening, if you've got a friend who's doing a podcast, if you're not going to listen, subscribe. If you're not going to subscribe, leave a review. Do something for this person's energy and time they're putting into this. And if you're a fellow podcaster, it's something that you understand so easily, and it'll only take you a few minutes to start listening to someone's podcast so they can get the stream, leave them a comment, leave them a review, and do all those things because it just takes so much energy and effort just to put it out there.
Absolutely. It's funny if we did a Family Feud type thing, and I said, "Hey, top 5 answers on the board. What do you hate the most?"
Mm,
Editing, number one answer. A very close number two, promotion.
yeah,
Almost everybody.
yeah.
So I understand completely. And
And we
and
don't do any edits. Our show is start to finish.
love it.
Yeah. So
Love it.
what you see is what you get. If you guys see us fumble or if I say something funny, it's real.
Well, that's how I do it too. I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic, man. That's beautiful. I wish more people would do that. I really
Yeah.
do. I wish that would
Yeah.
become the norm where it's like, look, you're people in a podcast. Life happens. I mean, no one expects a finished product that's perfect. Even Joe Rogan's not perfect.
Right.
The guy sneezed the other day on the air. They didn't edit it out. It was there. He sneezed.
Right.
I was like, it's 3 hours. What are you gonna do? All right, I love that. Okay, so as we're talking, content and whatnot, the conspiracy idea, and I love this. Um, is it confined to, how do I want to put this? I'm thinking in terms of like your Pete Rose stuff.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And the Wayne Gretzky thing that you brought up. It sounds like it's not confined to just on the court stuff.
Correct.
It's players' lives off the court as well. How do you manage that and not having something go viral for like the wrong reasons? You know what I mean?
I think at this point our show is so small that I would welcome that. um
That's the wrong answer, Scott.
we did get so we our most viral clip on Instagram is for the wrong reasons. So there was another podcast. I was doing research about the shortstop. Gosh, Kyle, help me out here. Cal Ripken. When
Yeah.
I was
Cal
doing,
Ripken.
so we did the Cal Ripken episode about the manufacturing a blackout to keep his active streak
Oh
going
yeah. Hmm.
because the Orioles were never a great team. They were a 500 ball club even when he was at his best. Um, and really, people were just showing up to see this streak, is what happened. Anyway, the conspiracy is that he slept with Kevin Costner. Kevin Costner slept with his wife. They got in a fight. Ripken couldn't play. They did a blackout, whatever. Well, as I'm doing research, I found a clip I really liked of Will Ferrell on another podcast talking about it. So I did borrow or use someone else's clip. I gave them credit in the comments and I uploaded it correctly. All the credits are there, and shout out to them. And if they ever find me and they're upset with me, I apologize. But that one clip's got, I think, 250,000 views already, and we borrowed it from somebody else. So I'm not proud of that. and most of the comments are pretty hateful. I mean, people love Costner, so for me to talk that way about Costner is pretty tough. I think Will says something along the lines of this one checks out, and I was making the point that these Hollywood guys all know each other and they know what kind of man, you work with somebody, you know what kind of man they are typically.
Hmm.
There's people at my work that I wouldn't trust around my wife and children, right? So anyway, that clip is kind of viral for the wrong reasons, and if I could do it over again, I probably would. But now it's out there, and I'm just a big believer in just owning something, even if you think it's a mistake. So we're going to leave it.
Nice. All right. I'm going to ask you about a couple of things. You guys can both give me your opinions, okay, as to whether or not it's a conspiracy, or
Ooh,
sort of is it real or is it
ooh,
is it fake? How about that?
like a game.
All
Okay,
right,
all
a
right.
little bit. I thought I
Kyle,
came
you answer first. You answer
Okay.
first, Kyle.
right. I came prepared, man. All right, I brought some receipts for you
I
guys.
love it.
All right. So first things first. All right, Chiefs officials in the bag and what happened in the Super Bowl. Kyle.
This Super Bowl?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
all of a sudden there were holding calls,
Oh yeah.
which I haven't
Yeah.
seen in like 3 years.
But like I said, man, I mean, the more I listen to, the more I watch, not just football, but all these sports, all these leagues, there is some kind of hidden agenda behind whatever the result is. Um, are people losing interest in the NFL because the Chiefs are so dominant? Dominant. Are they tired of hearing about Taylor Swift? What is really going on behind the scenes, and what makes the league and the teams the most money and the owners. And I think every single thing that happens, I think you got to ask those questions, and the scenario you're putting out there included. Just it's that simple.
Okay, so conspiracy yes or conspiracy no?
It's all a conspiracy, man.
All right. Okay.
We're
Skyler.
living it.
Um, I think it was a conspiracy to get the Chiefs there. I think it was good for ratings. I think but at the end of the day, even something that's good, everything has a beginning and an end. And I think there came a point where the NFL went, okay, we've done everything we can to manipulate this situation. At this point, we just got to let them play ball. And I think that's when the officiating changed a little bit. Because during the regular season, I've never seen a team get so many favorable calls, especially in close games. I do a little bit of sports gambling, so thank you. But and funny enough, I was taking a lot of teams to cover against the Chiefs, so that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, I think it was a conspiracy for them to get there. But once they got to the game, I think the refs were told to call it straight and call it fair, and the Eagles just went in there and dominated.
Nice. So
Yeah,
can you're voting conspiracy yes?
yeah. I guess we'll say yes on that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. Okay, another one for you. Bronny getting drafted
Mm,
in the NBA
mm,
at all.
mm.
Kyle, you get to go first, brother. Conspiracy? No conspiracy. He actually earned it.
Okay, you messed up there. No conspiracy. He actually earned it. I wouldn't go that far. No conspiracy. I don't think there's a conspiracy. I just think it happened on that one. I you know,
Really? Okay.
I think
So,
that's it. I don't think there's any agenda besides LeBron making it happen.
hmm. Okay. Skyler.
When's the last time you've seen a guy average 5 points a game get drafted in the NBA? I mean, come on.
Okay.
With that being said, with that being said, I actually kind of agree with Kyle here. It's not really a conspiracy that he's a Laker. I mean, I'm just talking as a father. If I was a pro athlete and I had the chance to get my son on my team, I don't care if he's the 12th man, it's happening. If I'm LeBron James and I'm the face of the league and I'm Mr. Ratings and people are doing all this stuff. And this is my one request because LeBron's not even the highest paid player in the NBA. Joel Embiid's going to be. He's got the most guaranteed money coming. And Joel Embiid only plays 50 games a year, right? So I just think, that's like Lakers, hey, you owe me one. I'm saving you money. You give me my boy.
Hmm. Okay, so you're saying conspiracy? No.
I don't know. I don't think it's either. I just think it's just dad. It's a powerful man doing what powerful men do. Look at Trump. He's putting his son to work in government. Not to get political, but
Yeah, I was gonna say I
obviously,
thought we weren't getting political.
obviously, there's probably someone more qualified. You know.
Interesting. All right, Kyle. I'm going to a follow-up question then. Kyle, this one's just for you. I'm not going to
Okay.
let Skyler answer this one, okay?
All right.
Because it has to do with him. Conspiracy or no conspiracy? You can't say anything to Skyler about LeBron.
Though Skyler does say that LeBron is the GOAT. So we'll let him have that.
I mean, that's a loyal brother like
It,
cousin
it's
if
it's
that's
the
where you're going to leave
It's the
this.
Cleveland tie. It's the Cleveland loyalty. He's delusional.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Jeez. I'm telling you, you guys are tough. You guys are tough right now, man. You got each other's backs. I love that. So that's beautiful. All right. Um, Let me throw one more at you. Just if you don't have an opinion on it, that's okay. I didn't give you any sort of warning on any of this stuff.
No.
And so I just want to make sure all the listeners know this. But, a while ago, there was the Golden State, Cleveland every year going into the playoffs, or meeting in the finals, so on and so forth. And there was, one year where, and I'm going to start with you, Kyle. There was one year where Golden State had it in the bag,
Hmm.
had it in the bag. Somehow Cleveland comes back, and Steph Curry, for the first, last, and only time in his entire career, goes, I don't know, 0 for everything he threw up. Conspiracy?
See, that's where I have a hard time with the conspiracies. I think the conspiracies are at a higher level than the players sometimes. I don't think you convince Steph Curry, who is that hyper competitive, to throw a game or anything like that. I think a lot of the conspiracies and things that are done are higher up and behind the scenes of the league altogether. But that's just me personally.
Hmm. All right, Skylar, I'm letting you have that one.
Um, yeah, I think, man, it's tough. It's so tough because there is some weird stuff that I've been researching, not just that particular stat you brought up where he had a pretty abysmal shooting night, but as somebody who played basketball, not at a high level, I can tell you I've had days where everything's went in and every day in days where everything's went out. And it does happen. Guys do have a bad game. So I don't know if that one particular game is the smoking gun of the conspiracy.
All right, this is not the end of this. I'm just letting you guys know. So I'm going to be trolling you now.
Please.
So, all right, I love it. I appreciate you guys fielding those because folks, if you're listening, we're having a lot of fun up here, but I didn't give them any sort of warning on any of this stuff. I just figured I'd throw it out here when I had them on the
Yeah.
show. So, I appreciate everything that you guys are doing. I love the ideas, love the idea behind the show. So. Let me ask you both, future plans for the show. Where do you guys see this going? What are some new things that are coming or new things you might like to try? Kyle, go ahead. You go first.
Like I said, it kind of started off us talking sports and kind of just hanging out with each other and bringing up some fun things. And uh, I'd love for it to grow and have a bigger audience. And Skylar said, hopefully here in the future I can start kind of laying the groundwork and bringing the subjects up and kind of throwing some things at him so you can see Skylar react and get a little bit on that side. And I just really enjoy doing it. Like it's fun. It's cool to just get away for a little bit, talk for a half hour about some things, and hopefully we can grow it.
Great. Skyler, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I would love to do what Kyle's saying, where Jordy and him are dropping one on me. I would also like to do a couple events a year where all three of us are doing an episode, or maybe have the camera on us like it is now, but we're all three of us are reacting in real time on maybe like a real stream to a game, and we're speculating while we're watching something. Like if we could have been speculating while we were watching the draft, I think that would have been so fun. That'd have been so much, and at the end of the day, if there's nothing to speculate about, we could just have fun, hang out. I mean, so definitely more stuff with all three of us, getting them to do some things. But I think if we could have the camera on us while we're watching an event and people could see our reaction to it, and maybe even do like a live stream where people can interact with us, I think that would be a really fun thing to try.
Nice. Nice. Looking forward to seeing all this stuff from you guys. All right. As we kind of wrap things up, I'm going to throw this out to the both of you. Doesn't matter who goes first. You guys can work it together. But we usually try to kind of close out our podcast with, a piece of advice or, guidance or anything like that, encouragement from you guys who have the different experience levels that you have, but you are in a podcast that seems to be, on the rise
Mhm.
and as entertaining as all get out and that I'm a personal fan of, obviously. I've never worn a jersey before on my show, so this is a whole new level of, casualness for me on here. But what's your best piece of advice, or guidance or anything else, encouragement to another podcaster who is not quite where you are in your journey to help them out?
Kyle, what would you say as far as like, because this is your first one, what do you think would
Right.
help other guys?
I think just do it. I mean, Sky's been bugging me to do this for a couple of years now. And he kind of went on his own, did his Sky the Service Guy thing, and I was afraid to be on camera. I don't like my voice. Think all the things that everyone has insecurities about. But just do it. I mean, you're even if you're not gonna be Joe Rogan more than likely. Um, just have some fun. If you're doing it, have some fun, and if it turns into something, it does. If it doesn't, I mean, you're at least doing something you enjoy and talking about something you're passionate about. Um, just put it out there. You have nothing to lose.
Great advice. Love that. Skylar, you've had a little more experience and it's your second show.
Yeah, I would tell people that are just getting started, or if you haven't gotten started yet, do not have paralysis through analysis. We don't You don't need the fanciest equipment. You don't need the fanciest software. You don't, at the end of the day, the where you're seeing me right now is on my cell phone. I downloaded a free app that I put on my computer. My microphone I've had since Sky the Service Guy. I got this off of Amazon. I didn't read any reviews. It was like $30. Everybody can hear me fine. We use StreamYard for our podcast, but that's a preference. You could easily use Zoom the way Rory is. There's a free version that goes up to 45 minutes. So between the phone that you already have, the Zoom for free, and a $30 mic, it's a very low investment. Don't be one of these people that do a crazy amount of research on all this stuff. Progress over perfection. Do your episode, go back and listen to it, and then make one adjustment each episode. You don't have to change 10 things. So that would be my advice to anybody is progress over perfection.
Love it. Absolutely love it. You guys, this has been a lot of fun. And I love your podcast. I think it's going to be huge. You just need to keep promoting it like you are, keep doing what you're doing, keep putting that awesome content out there. And I'm sure it's going to be like monstrous because I just love what you're doing. I love the way you're talking about it. Sports conspiracies, the whole bit. Nothing's off limits. I mean, you can't ask for more. So thank you both. We've got it's the Hidden Scoreboard podcast with Chris Jordan, otherwise known as Jordy, who couldn't be with us today. Kyle Orrick and Skyler Rader. You guys, thanks for being with us today and sharing and letting everybody know what you're doing.
Thank you for having us. New episodes every Monday at 12:15.
Awesome. And Kyle, thank you so much for coming on, brother.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, man. It's the first time I've done anything outside of our podcast. So appreciate you having me on, man. Nice meeting
Absolutely.
you.
Nice to meet you too, brother. Folks, that's been another awesome episode of The Podcaster Nation. I hope you guys had as much fun watching this, listen to it as we did doing it. And I hope that you guys are out there right now thinking of really cool sports conspiracies that you can, send them questions about. And you know what? Nothing's off limits. So if you're wondering, hey, how did Steph Curry just all of a sudden forget how to shoot the ball for 3 games in a row? You know what? Send them a message. Ask them. Put these guys to the test because they're going to love every minute of it. And so will you. This is the Podcaster Nation, folks. This is the podcast that is about podcasters. It's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. This is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So keep sailing.